most welcome to this lesson. I am teacher Katimbo Richard, teaching mathematics P5. Today I've come back with the same topic I introduced in the previous session, that is a lesson before this one called fractions, only that now this is the last lesson in P5 term 1. So this is the conclusive lesson to the work you are supposed to cover in P5. So the next lesson will be beginning term 2 work. So I urge you follow this one so I complete the booklet successfully. So as I said, we are looking at fractions, majorly multiplication and division of the same fractions. So do we start with multiplication of fractions? And the examples are here. The first one reads, what is a half of 16? 16. What is a half of 16? When you see this word of, it is interpreted like multiplication. So a half of 16 is the same as a half times 16. That's why in our working, we wrote a half times 16. So we divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 once. 16 divided by 2 is 8. You remain with 1 times 8, which answers 8. So a half of 16 is 8. And that's all. You secure your marks. So anything to do with of, replace it with the times sign of multiplication before anything is done, and then cancel thereafter. Then go to number 2, example 2. Says find 2/3 of 270. This one is just a little emphatic onto the word of. Still of is here. Do like we did. Let of be replaced with the times sign of multiplication operation, thereby saying 2 out of 3 times 270. That is 2/3 times 270. Then divide by 3, where 3 divided by 3 get 1. 27 divided by 3 is a 9. Then a 0 divided by 3 get a 0. So 270 divided by 3 get 90. We remain with 2 times 90, which is 2 times 90 means 180. So 2/3 of 270 is 180. And that's all. And wherever you see of, please replace it with that times sign. Then go to example number 3 and reads multiply a half by a third. Multiply a half by a third. So this is direct multiplication. In multiplication of fractions, you must note that we multiply numerators alone and denominators alone. So we first multiply the upper numbers and then multiply the down numbers. Hence we say 1 times 1 out of 2 times 3. It is the one that's down here. That is 1 times 1 out of 2 times 3. Which 1 times 1 is a 1. And 2 times 3, you get a 6. So a half times a third, you get a 6th. And that's all. That is the answer. And now, number 4 emphasizes the same. Tells you to multiply 9/11 by 4/10. 9 out of 11 times 4 out of 10. Do like I've said. Number 3, multiply the numerators first. That's 9 and 4. Before you multiply 11 and 10. That is 9 times 4 out of 11 times 10. Where 9 times 4 you get 36. And 11 times 10 you get 110. And now you
look at your answer, which is 36 out of 110, and see whether it is reducible further. All fractions must be reduced. All fractions must be reduced, apart from around 4 kinds of fractions, that is square, square root, reciprocal, and probability. So those 4 kinds of fractions must never be reduced. But if the answer I've got here is none of those 4 and it's reducible, please do the needful and you must then reduce. So look at 36 out of 110 and look out for the common divisor because it seems reducible. So 36 and 110 are both divisible by 2. So do we divide? In that division, technically talk about it as reducing the fraction. So reduce this fraction by 2. So divide 36 by 2 and 110 by 2. And now 3 alone divided by 2 is 1, remainder 1. This remainder counts on to 6 to make 16. Which 16 divided by 2 you get 8. So 36 divided by 2 get 18. Then we divide the down one, call the denominator also by the same number 2. We say 11 divided by 2 get a 5. Remainder 1. This one goes on to 0 and makes another 10. 10 divided by, say 2, you still get 5. So that 110 divided by 2 you get 55. So you see that we remain with 18 out of 55, which 18 out of 55 is no longer reducible by any other number, and so it is the conclusive answer for that particular number. Note that all fractions are reduced apart from 4 types of fractions. That is square, square root, probability, and reciprocal. Like we have reciprocal here in number 5. Number 5 reads, find the reciprocal of 2/3. Find the reciprocal of 2/3. Should be noted that in mathematics, every number's got a working. Everyone knows that reciprocate is to turn upside down or to have the opposite of any given thing, or in particular any given fractions. So when you reciprocate or to just reciprocate 2/3, you will get 3 out of 2. But much as you know the answer, before you even work out, ensure you have the working and the knowledge about reciprocal. That's why anyway this word is find. If you are to find, then you must track. You must move towards something and then find it on the way. So therefore, there must be the working because of the word find. Then, how is reciprocal formed? One must know that a fraction times its reciprocal, 1 gets 1. A fraction times its reciprocal is equal to 1. So it's about the multiplication. That's why, anyway, reciprocal is on the other hand known as multiplicative inverse. When I say find the multiplicative inverse of 2/3, I'll be meaning this very question, find the reciprocal of 2/3. So because it is called multiplicative inverse, then we find it by multiplication. And the rule is fraction times reciprocal is equal to 1. That's why 1 forms an algebraic equation by stating first, let the reciprocal be a letter. In this case, teachers chose M. You are free to choose any other. Let the reciprocal be M, such that 2/3 times its reciprocal M is equal to 1, because the product of a fraction and its reciprocal is 1. When a fraction is multiplied by its reciprocal, we don't know M, 1 gets 1. So that's why we say 2/3 times M is equal to 1. And now you first simplify this, where 2 times m, you get 2m out of 3. That's why I've got 2m out of 3 is equal to 1. And now that you know 1 is out of 1, we get LCM of 3 and 1, which LCM remains 3. So LCM is equal to 3. And we've got 2 parties to which we are going to share this lowest common multiple. So we multiply both sides, or either side, or either party, by the said LCM 3. That's why we say 3 times 2m out of 3 equals 3 times 1. Please multiply this side and the other side by 3 each. And the use of this LCM is to do away with this denominator so that it becomes 1. That's why the next step is through cancellation of the 3's. That is 3 divided by 3 once, 3 divided by 3 once. In that way, the LCM will have fulfilled its obligation of eliminating this denominator, thereby remaining with 2m. So 2m is equal to the product this way, which is a 3. Now, if 2m is equal to 3, then we divide either side by 2 to remain with m, which m was baptized as our reciprocal. So we divide 2m by 2 and 3 by 2, and cancel by 2 once, by 2 once, thereby getting m, which is equal to 3 out of 2. Should be noted that the reciprocal, as it comes, as it's left, you leave it like this. Whereas all the improper fractions make improper answers in mathematics, unless it is a reciprocal. So for the reciprocal, leave it as improper fractional answer. This is improper fraction. Why improper? Because the numerator is greater than the denominator. For all the other answers in fractions, this will never be allowed, apart from when it is reciprocal. So 3 out of 2 is a correct answer in mathematics, but only if your answer is reciprocal. But if it's not reciprocal and you come up with this, then you have to turn it to a mixed fraction. By dividing 3 by 2, you get 1 remainder 1, thereby getting 1.5. But here, it is 3 out of 2. It's about reciprocating these 2 out of 3, where 3 goes on top and 2 goes down. That's the opposite in terms of mathematics. The opposite of a fraction, the reverse. The reverse, you turn it upside down, but through the working. Why? The word told us to find, meaning you have to have the idea, what we call the knowledge about reciprocal, that a fraction times reciprocal, you get 1. It is that idea within which one works to get these 3 out of 2 called reciprocal, and that is about the multiplication of fractions. Then you'll be able to answer the questions. And this discussion is all the way from page 106 to 112 of the same workbook, and will be the end of that workbook. The remaining part will be for assessing this very topic called fractions, and that is all. Then we look at division of fractions. Division of fractions, having looked at the multiplication. Now, the examples are here. The first example says divide 10 by a half. Divide 10 by a half. So, in division of fractions, we look at the idea of reciprocal. We've already learned about reciprocal. It means having the numerator become the denominator, and the denominator turns into the numerator. So that is the same idea we are going to use in division of fractions. And now, if 10 is out of 1, like we know any whole number is out of 1 if it's written as a fraction, because out of means divided by. So 10 divided by 1 means 10. So if 1 wrote 10, it is the same person that will write the same 10 as out of 1. So these two mean the same. 10 is the same as 10 divided by 1. So 10 divided by 1 is a 10. Then the division is turned into multiplication, the working of division. You turn the division into multiplication, then this last fraction is reciprocated. So the reciprocal of a half is 2. And now you're free to say 2 out of 1. So we say 10 out of 1, this remains 10 out of 1, then times the reciprocal. Remember, the division changes into is reciprocal. That division changes into the multiplication, and then the last fraction is reciprocated. You write it upside down, a half becomes 2 out of 1. Thereby having 10 out of 1 times 2 out of 1, where 10 times 2, you get 20, and 1 times 1, you get 1. Where 20 divided by 1, you get 20. So when the 10 is halved, meaning is divided into halves, you get 20 halves. You get 20 halves, so the answer is 20. The answer is 20. Now, we go to number 2. Number 2 tells us to work out, and there is a column here, 2/3 divided by 8. 2/3 divided by 8. Since we are dealing with fractions, even 8 must be written as a fraction. Any whole number as a fraction is out of 1. That's why 2/3 divided by 8 is the same as 2/3 divided by 8 out of 1. And now, this 2/3 remains 2/3. The division changes into multiplication, and then the 8 out of 1 becomes 1 out of 8. As soon as the division changes into multiplication, then the divisor, or the number to be divided by, which is called a divisor, is reciprocated, is written upside down, where the 1 has been 8 out of 1 becomes 1 out of 8, thereby writing 2/3 times 1/8, or 2 out of 3 times 1 out of 8. And now you have freedom to cancel in multiplication of fractions, and it's only in multiplication of fractions that we can cancel even before multiplying. Now we see 2 and 8 having a common divisor 2, meaning both are divisible by 2. Then I opted to first divide before I multiplied, thereby dividing 2 by 2 to get 1, and 8 by 2 get a 4. And I remain with 1 times 1, which is a 1, and 3 times 4, which is 12. So thereby getting an answer as a 12th. Or 1 out of 12, read as a 12th. One day they will tell you to write this in words. That is this answer, 1 out of 12. Don't say 1 out of 12, say a 12th. Write in words, you say a 12th. Like 2 out of 3, write in words, you say 2/3. This is a 12th, this is an 8th, 1 out of 8. So we must know how to write words. As we go to the example number 3, that tells us to divide 9 out of 11 divided by 9 out of 3. 9 11ths divided by 9/3. Now both have got their corresponding denominators, that's 11 and 3. The task ahead of you is to change division into multiplication and reciprocate 9 out of 3, meaning let it be 3 out of 9. The next kind of working, that is the first one remains the same, 9 out of 11, and the division changes to multiplication, and then the divisor is reciprocated. Get 9 out of 11 times 3 out of 9. The one that's being 9 out of 3 becomes 3 out of 9. And now start your cancellation. We say by 9 once, by 9 once. If that's true, then you multiply. Why did I start with this? I saw a common divisor between the two 9s. So each of the 2 can able be divided by 9, and in that regard, you cancel. So by 9 once, thereby getting 1 times 3 to get a 3, and 11 times 1 to get an 11. Then the answer is 3/11ths, all locally read as 3 out of 11. Technically, we say 3/11ths is the answer. And that's all, nothing else, because 3 out of 11 can never be reduced. So doesn't have any common divisor. So we then look at example 4, which reads, how many half-liter bottles can be got from a 20-liter jerry can of water? How many half-liter bottles can be got or obtained from a 20-liter jerry can of water? Now, these are word numbers. Some people call word problems, but they are not problems actually. Do you know why people fail mathematics? When people reach such numbers, they call them problems, and they think they are problematic. So they are not problems. They are numbers containing words which must be read and understood, and then you choose the operation among the 4. That is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division that suits those numbers. So now the question reads, how many half-liter bottles can be got from a 20-liter jerry can of water? So in other words, we have got a 20-liter jerry can is to be subdivided into half-liter bottles. So when you understand that way, then you know you're going to divide 20 by a half. So how many 20-liter jerry can? How many half-liter bottles can be got from a 20-liter jerry can of water? So jerry can of 20 liters filled with water, and now someone has got bottles each that can be filled by half a liter. So then how many such bottles can be obtained? Meaning the whole water of 20 liters is to be subdivided into halves. So you say 20 divided by a half. 20 divided by a half, which 20 is out of 1, and then the division changes into multiplication. A half is reciprocated. You write it like 2 out of 1. From a half, that's 1 out of 2, becomes 2 out of 1. That's 20 out of 1 times 2 out of 1. Now that these are ones, we multiply the numerators and denominators. That's 20 times 2, you get 40. 1 times 1 is 1. So 40 out of 1 is the same as 40. So how many half-liter bottles? They are going to be 40 half-liter bottles from a 20-liter jerry can of water. Why? Every liter has got 2 half liters. Every liter has got 2 halves. Then how many halves are 20? Meaning they are going to double. That is 20 times 2. Finally, you get 40 half-liter bottles got from a 20-liter jerry can of water. Then number 5 emphasizes the same. It's about chapatis. You enjoy eating now that you enjoy. So the question is, how many a third chapatis can be got from 2 chapatis? Now somebody bought 2 chapatis and is going to cut into each into 3s, so that he gets 3 pieces from every chapatis. Then how many a third chapatis can be got from 2 chapatis? So whenever you hear how many small ones can be got from a big one, it means a big one is to be cut into small ones. A big one, so the big one is 2. That's 2 full chapatis. They are going to be subdivided or cut into a third. So to cut is to divide. So that is 2 divided by a third. 2 divided by a third. Remember 2 as the whole number is out of 1. That's why we say 2 out of 1. Division changes into multiplication, and then a third is reciprocated. 1 out of 3 becomes 3 out of 1. So we say 2 out of 1 times 3 out of 1, thereby remaining with 2 times 3, which is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1. So 6 out of 1 is the same as 6. So how many a third chapatis? We've got 6 such chapatis. 6 such chapatis in a third kind of portions. So in that way, you will have learned both multiplication and division of fractions, which work you are going to write as the last work of term 1 work in our booklet, and will be found on page or pages 106 all the way to 112, and that's all with term 1 work. So we are looking forward to
having to start term 2 work, which booklets are already available at school. Please, as soon as you write this work, you rush to school to get the second copy, that is term 2 booklet, which is already in stock. So those books are already in stock. Please hurry as stock lasts. I am teacher Katimbo Richard. I thank you for all what you have done, endeavoring coming for the books, endeavoring following the teacher as teacher is explaining, that is teacher Katimbo and other teachers. Thank you very much. Buying data to involve so much and a lot, and therefore I must be thankful to you. So for any other assistance about mathematics in general, call this same teacher Katimbo on these numbers. That's 0776251655. That's the MTN line. Alternatively, use Airtel 07572330066. And that's the end of the lesson. Stay safe.